There's someone you've probably passed without registering, standing at a crosswalk, or waiting for a light, or just leaning against a wall doing apparently nothing. But if a motorcycle goes by, any motorcycle, something almost imperceptible happens to their face. Not excitement exactly, recognition. The way a linguist's ear moves when they catch a dialect. You'd miss it if you weren't looking for it. These are the people who have already cataloged what just passed before the sound has finished fading. Year, model, likely displacement. Whether the exhaust note suggests a stock pipe or something aftermarket. They didn't try to do this. They just do. The way a carpenter walking through someone's house automatically notices where the walls aren't quite plumb. And this is where it gets interesting, because this isn't about enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is loud and self-announcing. What these people have is something quieter and considerably stranger, a continuous, mostly involuntary taxonomy of everything on two wheels that crosses their field of vision. The question worth asking is why? The answer to that is obvious and boring. The more interesting question is what it reveals about the architecture of a certain kind of attention, and what that attention does to a person over time. Psychologists studying perceptual expertise have a term for what happens when a domain becomes deeply internalized. They call it chunking. Chess grandmasters don't see individual pieces. They see configurations, pressure, implication. Expert radiologists don't scan an image the way a layperson does. They move to the anomaly almost before they've consciously registered the rest. The motorcycle people have done something similar, except nobody assigned it to them. No curriculum, no credential, no formal pressure to develop it. They built this capacity out of pure, sustained, unrewarded attention across years. That matters more than it sounds like it does. There's a man named Daniel who works in urban planning in a mid-sized city in the Pacific Northwest. He has a spreadsheet, not of his finances, but of every configuration of Ducati 900 series he's encountered in person since 2009. Not obsessively. He'll tell you this himself with a slight defensiveness that suggests he's had to explain it before, just as a record. The way a birdwatcher keeps a life list, not because the birds require documentation, but because the documentation is a form of respect, an acknowledgement that the encounter happened and deserved to be marked. When he drives to work, he clocks the bikes the way other people clock the weather, cataloging without deciding to. And he's noticed something about himself that he finds genuinely difficult to explain to people who don't share the condition. Ordinary distractions don't land the same way. The noise that seems to scatter other people's attention, the notifications, the ambient anxiety of minor inconveniences, tends to slide past him. Not because he's more disciplined, because his attention has a home. And attention with a home is structurally different from attention that's homeless. This is the thing observers tend to misread as detachment. It isn't detachment. It's the opposite. It's a very particular kind of presence that comes from having organized your perceptual life around something specific enough to give everything else a reference point. The first time you see it clearly, it's almost unsettling. You're at a stoplight with someone who has this. A bike goes by, let's say, with mismatched bodywork and a slightly off idle. Before you've finished registering that a motorcycle passed at all, they've already told you what it is, roughly what's wrong with it, approximately what it would cost to address, and whether the rider looked like they knew. Not showing off, just reporting. The way you might comment on the weather to someone standing next to you. It would be rude not to mention. Now here is the honest part, because there always is one. The people who know every motorcycle on the road are not entirely comfortable to be around if you don't share the orientation. There's a gap that opens up mid-conversation, in restaurants, at gatherings, whenever something passes outside the window, and their attention leaves the room completely for 3 seconds. The people who love them have learned to recognize the pause. Some find it endearing. Some, after long enough, find it something else. And the people themselves know this. They're not unaware that their perceptual wiring routes a portion of their presence somewhere most people can't follow. They've had the conversations. They've watched the slight blankness cross someone's face when they started explaining why a particular engine note meant a particular thing and realized halfway through that the explanation had become a monologue. But here's what doesn't change, and this is the part that's genuinely worth sitting with. The world they move through is measurably richer than the one most people inhabit. Not better necessarily, richer, more textured, more populated with meaning. The same street that reads as unremarkable to most people reads, to them, as a continuous stream of information, history, mechanical narrative, human choice made visible. Every bike is a decision someone made, a thing someone wanted badly enough to own, a specific intersection of engineering and desire that arrived at this particular street corner at this particular moment and will never be exactly repeated. They see all of that in 3 seconds. You saw a motorcycle. This is the thing that's worth understanding about people whose attention has been shaped by a deep and specific passion. They are not escaping the world. They are living in a more detailed version of it. The specificity isn't a retreat from reality. It's an amplification of it. So when you next notice someone whose gaze just tracked something past your shoulder, who said nothing but whose expression shifted almost imperceptibly, who is now back in the conversation as if nothing happened. Don't ask them what they saw. Ask yourself what you'd have to care about that much to see the same way. Because the answer to that question is not a hobby, it's a lens. And the lens changes everything it touches, including, eventually, the person looking through it.